Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much. All Things Business Book Review. We're so excited. We're into chapter 10, 11, and 12 in our book, Outwitting the Devil. And I hope you guys have picked it up by now and can follow us if you can. So I'm so excited about in the studio joining us today on the rebuttal of going through the book. We got Miss Kathleen Williams coming in from Sacramento, California. Hello, beautiful lady. We got Mr. Bob Myers in Reno, Nevada.
Hello, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, sir. Good day, sir. We got Miss Rutherford from Cleveland, Ohio.
Good evening, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening. And we also have Mr. Harrison Mills from Fresno, California, joining us in the Book Review Club review and going to comment on what they got out of it. So as you know, we're going through the book and we're in chapter 10, which is talking about self-discipline. Chapter 11 tonight, learning from adversities, and chapter 12, environment, timing, harmony, and caution. And caution. You know, a lot of people, if you can pick the book up and read through the book, the tape is amazing, and he talks like a devil. I don't know what a devil, but it's really authentic kind of, and you're going to learn a lot. And we've all had stretched ourselves to pick this up and learn a lot. But tonight we're going to pick up and we're going to go into chapter number 10, self-discipline. And we're going to start the chapter on page 186 for you folks that have your books out there, want to join us on page 186. We're going to start the first question at the top of the page on 186. The question Napoleon Hill was asking the devil was, what preparation must one undergo before being able to move with definition of purpose at all time? And the devil answered this way: one must gain mastery over self. This is the second of the 7 principles. The person who does not master themselves can never be masters of others. Lack of mastery is in itself the most destructive form of indefinition. Who wants to comment on that? Let's go with Mr. Kathleen Williams. What did you get out of that?
I will gladly start, Mr. Thomas. What I got out of it is, unless I control my own mind, it's not going to happen, and I will start drifting.
Mm-hmm. So true. So true. We have to guard it and protect it and control it. What would you say about that, Mr. Bob Myers?
Mr. Thomas, definitely. I think I'll give an analogy. It's like having a ship in the ocean without a rudder. You can't get to where you're going. You're just flopped around by all these outside things that are happening to the wind, the waves. And so without that mastering yourself, you're not going to go where you're going to go. You're not going to reach your purpose.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy, sir. I appreciate that. Let's go to Mr. Harrison Mills. What did you get out of that passage?
You know, mastering over self. This is talking about drifting and non-drifting drifters. This is a really good definition of just drifting. You just you go as the wind blows. You don't have there is no mastering. There's nothing with that other than you just drift. Whatever it goes, you go.
That's what definitely is the definition of a non-drifter. Ms. Rutherford, what did you get out of that passage?
Well, the very fact that the only person we can control is us. And just like I told a young person last night, if they tell you that someone made them mad, that means that you gave away your power. So that's basically what that means.
Great. Thank you, dear. Thank you. Also on the same page right underneath, the second question they asked the devil is, where would one begin when making a start at controlling over self? And the devil answered, by mastering the 3 appetites responsible for most of one's lack of self-discipline. The 3 appetites are: 1, desire for food; 2, desire for expression of sex; and 3, the desire to express lucid, organized opinion. Wow, lucid. Wow, that's crazy. Miss Kathleen Williams. Wow, what you got to say about all that?
Especially 1 and 3, the desire for food and not controlling it contributes to the obesity that's in this country horribly. And people will make an opinion without finding out the facts. They'll listen to other people's opinion and just keep repeating it.
Good answer. Good answer. Mr. Myers, what'd you get out of that passage?
Out of the three, I really think that sex or love, however you want to put it, and I don't think they're the same, to be honest. That's where I think that's the biggest thing. I think that we lose our direction, we lose our thought because we get caught up in this euphoria. And with that, we lose our purpose, the direction we're going, where we're going. So I think it's a big deal to control those things, especially the appetite for sex.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Mr. Harrison Mills?
And this is deep. Let me say first, Catherine went on food. He went on expression of sex. And we're about to dive really into this, so I can't wait. I'm not going to go so far with it, but I'm going to just go with loosely organized opinions with it. I think that's also very important. It goes at the top of all three of them. Just in what someone says to you, how hard can it affect the mind and the heart just from someone's opinion?
That's a good thing because a lot of us, we take somebody's opinion and we take it as facts. And then we dwell on it and we embrace it. And now all of a sudden it start breathing in us and we start embracing it. And we just, it just eats us alive and it controls us. Yeah. Good point. Ms. Rutherford.
To piggyback on your conversations so far, people often will say things like, well, I didn't see it on the news, because they're too lazy to research and look for themselves, and they take things as fact. But what Bob was saying with the sex, see, I came up during the 70s, and that was the free love era of America. And so we didn't get that importance of the sanctity of the fact. We were told that love the one you're with.
For you young folks out there, you missed that, so that might have been good.
Amen.
I'm going to go over the next page 187, the second question that asks the devil that Napoleon Hill said. Your viewpoint is both interesting and educational. Describe the details through which I may understand how and under what circumstances people overfeed the appetite. And he takes the answer saying, take the desire for physical food, for example. The majority of people who are so weak in self-discipline, I'm going to say that again, so weak in self-discipline, they fill their stomachs with a combination of rich food, which pleases the taste, but overwork the organs and digestive and elimination. Wow. He talks about a lot of the food that we take in is very deadly and toxic poison in them, and it clogs the sewer system in our bodies. Wow. Miss Kathleen Williams.
It clogs them.
Yeah.
And the thing is he goes on to say that the fact that when the sewer system of the body gets sluggish, that there's irritability and fussiness. I've seen, as a nurse, I've seen it. When people are constipated, they are the most irritable people around. And sometimes, especially with our seniors, that's how we figure out that they're actually constipated.
And the food. There you go. Mr. Bob Myers.
Well, that's tough to follow there, Catherine. Anyway, she's right. And towards the bottom, it says the victim then becomes sluggish and is physically movements and mental irritable and fussy. And I think, I can think of myself when I have something to eat, like maybe it's Thanksgiving, and you eat all that food, your mind just stops. You don't want to do anything. You become lethargic. And it really does kind of overcome not only your mind, but your body.
Yeah.
And I think it's a key thing, definitely.
Especially with turkey at Thanksgiving, with a tryptophan in it, makes you want to sleep. Isn't that
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mr. Harrison Mills.
Can I say I love this conversation? Maybe I don't know if it's immature or not, but I love it. But I want to focus on self. Okay. That's where I'm going to go with. And there were a lot of things I need to control myself. When I am like at a point of frustration or give me some French fries. Give me, that's where I'm at. I just start to lose, I don't even care. I want to indulge in this. Or if I want to focus on one thing, give me either some Twizzlers. I need to eat that as you study. You just forget about all these different things just so that you can either focus on something or you're like, I'm in like a small little depression or some kind of, you forget those things that come out the way. So it's a great point of mastering and finding another way of giving an outlet to it if you can.
Yeah, you reminded me when you start talking about Twizzlers. I don't like but I do like the red licorice, the red vines. Oh my God! And I replace that now with carrots.
Oh, see.
So I replace it because otherwise my sewer system will back up as well. Miss Rutherford.
This is right up my alley because my father primarily loved to cook and he loved to feed us. And so my brother and I felt like Luther Vandross because there was the big Marvetta and the little Marvetta. And he always kept my hair together. But when you talk about food and the correlation of being constipated, back then, we didn't have the additives, artificial dyes, and all these things that they are now feeding our children. But yet, we suffer the consequences because of the choices and combinations in times.
Yeah, very good. Man, you brought back some memories there. I'm going to go to page 188. And second paragraph talking about people who eat wisely, okay, and keep their body sewer clean, which I like this, handicap me because a clean body sewer generally means a sound body and a brain that function properly. So in other words, as we eat and keep the right stuff in us, he can't control us because we're in control of our body, mind, and spirit. What do you say about that, Miss Kathleen Williams?
It's very true because if we don't have control of our body, mind, and spirit because of overindulgence of anything, but especially food, we don't have control of anything. And we're turning our control over to anybody and everybody else.
Yeah, that's a good point because I had to get my flesh under submission from eating red licorice now to carrots. So I go down and buy carrots and I eat carrots like crazy now. And I don't have the desire for the sweets of that candy. I love it. Mr. Bob Myers, what would you say to this?
I think we're definitely built where everything is tied together. And so with the physical process of eating food, it definitely links us to our mind, our mental and our emotional health. And as emotional beings, it really changes everything, the way we think and the way we act and do.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's good. That's very good. Very good. Mr. Harrison Mills?
So I'm going to tag on to what Bob Myers is saying along with it. Probably the number one addiction is sugar. Has anyone out there ever detoxed from sugar? I mean, your mind would go crazy. And all you need is 6 or 7 days, but after that, you go back to go eat some of those things, your body just starts to reject it. It's so sweet. It's like, I can't believe I was eating something this sweet, which has me think of the other things, along with it. It makes you, once you master that, just what else can you master after that?
That's a good point. Let me get that one. And what else? That's a good point. Now you get stronger. Miss Rutherford.
Wow. So you've been watching me, Harrison, make my coffee because I use condensed milk because I don't add the sugar. The sugar's already in the milk. But it's a struggle. It's like the last mountain that I have to climb. But I know my little brother just did it. It's important for us to recognize things that we eat. And because, I don't want to have arthritic hands and also the byproducts of sugar. But we've been raised, you remember Kool-Aid, you had to add sugar, and everything else you had to add sugar. And they knew it.
Okay. There you go. Kool-Aid, backbreak. Woo, man. Then move from Kool-Aid to Tang. All right. On page 189, the devil said he used sex to suppress people. And I'm going to go down to page 189. The answer is, I take the desire for sex expression. Now there is a force with which I master the weak and the strong and the old and the young, the ignorance and the wise. In fact, I master all who neglect to master sex. Wow. Kathleen Williams.
I have to kind of look back to what I saw with Marvetta earlier. When she made the comment about the 70s, I have to admit I'm that child of the 70s. But the thing is it was one of those times when there was not a mastery of anything. And the result then even was the use of a lot of drugs, which didn't help the mind, created a whole lot of problems, and has created problems ever since.
There you go. Wow. And like you say, he uses sex to master people. Mr. Myers?
Well, I definitely think sex, sexuality, love is one of our highest emotions, and so
Yeah.
through that, it really opens us up to control because of outwardly forces. Usually, sex or sexuality usually is with someone else or in a group or it's in a setting, and so it really kind of opens the door to get us in, to where we're not doing what we should be doing.
Yeah, that's remember that song, "Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places." Harrison Mills.
Hey, well, first I'm gonna say I'm a product of the 70s, so I think there's a blessing somewhere in there. I love the 70s. I was born there in that time. So but regardless, it reminds me a little bit of something. I love when things just kind of run across my way. And the late Dr. Miles Monroe came across, and he was talking about the greatest empire in the world was Rome. Globally, like all over the world, but they weren't their empire wasn't destroyed by someone outside. It was self-destruction, and the destruction was not mastering the emotion of sex. Now I'm going to just lay this here. Sometimes history repeats itself.
Ooh, wow. That door is open. I understand. Miss Rutherford, wow.
Man. Okay, so to piggyback on what Harrison just said, one of my father's favorite movies was Caligula, and he's right. The hedonistic mindset is what really took down the world dominational situation, much in the same way that had now in this modern time, because I could never get through Mr. Hill's first book but I bookmarked the one Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
Transmutation that they didn't teach us in school. That's so powerful. And if you just transmuting with everybody, well, you're drifting.
Yeah.
You might have a clinic. Bye.
Okay, that's true. Now we got a couple more questions along the sex line here. The other question that he adds also right under that one, the question was asked. Napoleon Hill asked him, "How can one master the emotion of sex?" And the answer, this is get deep. Sex is one of the greatest of all forces which motivate human beings. Because of the fact it is also one of the most dangerous forces. If human would control their sex desire and transmute them into a driving force with which to carry on their occupation, this is if they spent on their work half the time they in their pursuit of sex, they would never know poverty. Wow. Well, they dissipated that into, ooh, that's so true. That is so true. Kathleen Williams.
And it is true because sex permeates so much of our lives, whether it's television, anywhere else. And the unfortunate part of it is some successful people who start out successful don't end up successful because of sex.
Yeah. Good answer. That's true. That's true. That's true. Mr. Myers, that's true.
Well, definitely. I think sex, like I said before, is very strong emotion. And, it's like your first love. You're just, that's all you think about. You're constantly in there. You're constantly thinking about it. But what he goes on to say, the devil actually says, is that by repurposing that into something else, whether it's your business, your purpose, your life, serving, that's where you can overcome that and rechannel all of that emotion into something that's positive that can help others around you.
I love your answer. That's so true. And so many people, we're all human. Some of us fail at it. Some of us don't fail at it. But that's a very good point. If we took that energy and put it into something meaningful and not so much think about that all the time, I think you hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much. Mr. Harrison Mills, what's your...
So, it's more of a reflection of just thinking about it. So you guys talked about the 70s, right? I'm going to bring this a little bit modern. Carl's Jr. Now, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's really a burger joint here on the West Coast that we have here. And their main commercial is women with loosely clothed. And the next thing is them lusting over this burger along with her. And it just cracks me up because first we already know who your target is, but just shows you, talking about outwitting the devil, talking about, you should see that line. Once that commercial comes on during the Super Bowl, you should see the drive-through. And just to show you, if you actually using that driving and using that same thing as we were talking about the emotions of sex and how much it really wires us so much in it being the number one principle, how far could we go with intelligence, of reading, of learning, so.
And it's amazing, a good point, and how they use sex in most advertisements today is all sexually orientated.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you don't do this, you're not sexy enough for her to want you, him to want you.
Mm-hmm.
So sex goes through a lot of things today. People buy certain cars because it makes them look sexier, or this cologne, or this, that, or that, because it's where they want. And also, like a high karate commercial, you got to knock them off of it because you got high karate on.
Yeah,
I got high karate. They ran from me. Miss Rutherford.
Oh God.
It didn't work, that commercial.
Yes,
Matter of fact, I want my money back.
Well, they went out of business, Mr. Thomas.
That's why.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. As a teenage mother, I think that I pretty much liked sex, and so again, it was a part of our culture, and not the power of transmutation. And it's an interesting avenue because today, even with the advent of AIDS and other things that we can't get rid of, um, sex is rampant in the senior citizens. It's rampant with the kids in junior school. And Harrison, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm over my time, but you owe your existence to a Barry White or an Isaac Hayes song. I promise you.
All right. Okay, this is a family channel. It's a family call. It's a family call. It's called Outwitting the Devil. Woo! On page 190, the second question they asked the devil: is there any relationship between sex and leadership? Somebody's phone is on. Sex and the devil answered, yes. All great leaders in every walk of life are highly sexed, but they follow the habits of controlling their sex desires, switching them into driving forces behind their occupation. Wow. Captain Williams.
These truly successful people, be it a man, be it a woman, and I have to throw women in there because nowadays, as women move up in the business world as entrepreneurs, they're still held out there as a sex symbol. And there are those out there that even if a woman sets herself up as a strong woman, there are those that will try to make it look like she got to her position by sex.
Yeah, there's that perceived notion, and then Hollywood, that's pretty prevalent. We're seeing more and more of that come out today than ever before. Yeah, that's so true. Great, that's a great answer, Mr. Myers.
I'm going to take a different spin on this because I think that you can actually be beautiful as a woman and you can be handsome as a man, which gives you that sex appeal, but it's not directed totally at sex. It's directed at, I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm confident in where I'm going. And I think with that, I think that is one of the tricks you can use to overcome the devil and that side of it, because it gives you that clarity in who you are and the decisiveness in what you do.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. That's a different viewpoint. There you go. I like that. Harrison Mills, can't wait to hear what you got to say now.
You know, I'm so glad I'm having this conversation with you all. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. Let me just put that out to you. But as we talked before, this is a spiritual thing. And the one cool thing that it lets me know is that great leaders have a high sex drive. In saying that, he's basically saying it's healthy. He's not saying remain chaste. As a matter of fact, if you do yourself an injustice, a disjustice. Can I say that? And so what they do, what great leaders do, is they switch it to a driving force behind their occupation. I'm going to use that same highly sex force that I have, and I'm going to use that energy and put it somewhere else, which makes me even more wealthier in that same, and healthier in that same sense. So it's really great to hear.
Yeah. Most successful people that are really have very strong sex drives, men or women, have it. And they take that and put it in other areas. Perfect. Miss Rutherford, I can't. Yes, ma'am.
You know what? Like I said, this is such an enjoyable chapter and area in life because, listen, without sex, none of us would be here, right? But very same token, what was spoken of previously, you have to have a focus in your purpose. And sometimes we get, they said, lost in love. You know, go back and think about some of those titles. You know, you get hurt and you can't go on without the person. Well, see, that's why I wouldn't listen to that song, because you got to go on. But now, as a person building business, yes, I want to share my life with somebody. Yes, I want to have meaningful sexual relationship with them. But I can't allow that to make me drift.
That's so true. That's right. On page 194, he talks about how a great surprise so many people learn that is a close relationship between thinking and sex emotion. And the answer he gave was the habits developing as a grasshopper mind. One would jump from one thing to another, but never completing anything. In other words, they jump from idea, hope, and they just jump from thing to thing, and they don't stick with one thing too long. What do you want to say about that, Miss Kathleen Williams?
I see it happening frequently when people say, I'm going to start this new business, I'm going to do, and in 6 months, they're doing something else. And then they're doing something else. And they've changed from one business to the other. And they don't stick to anything. And you ask them what they did in school, and you find out they've done the same thing. They went from football to basketball to tennis to hockey to whatever, and never all through their life spent time in any area.
Not mastering anything, becoming, not mastering anything. Generality in a lot of things. Great answer. Mr. Bob Myers.
I'm going to actually start out by reading a quote just below that. And it says, the habit of expressing loosely organized opinions is one of the most destructive of habits. And so what it tells me is that not only listening to loose habits, but also creating those for other people, we become the work of the devil by doing that. So we have to always make sure that whatever we're talking about, that we've taken the time to research what we're talking about and what we're expressing. I think that gives us clarity in everything that we do.
Good point, sir. Very good point. Mr. Harrison Mills.
Hey, so there's probably something we kind of skipped over that I think ties in with this, and that is on page 193. There is but one thing of greater importance to human beings, and that is accurate thought. It is accurate thought, not disorganized, but accurate thought on there. We have a saying with some people, we call them popcorn popcorn Christians in some sense. And the reason why we say that is because they pop up here, then they pop up there, they pop up here, and they pop just stay in one place. Just stay.
Thank you. That's a good question. That's a good answer. Thank you, Miss Rutherford.
You know, I'm loving this whole situation because I have been on social media about 15 years. And sometimes the algorithm allows me to see relationships of people who trade in their sexual partners, like we would trade in our jacket for a sweater. And like the others said, they don't stick with anything. And so, because we are doing that, we're drifting. It's often enabling to both men and women to think that it's okay to have a bunch of lovers, but that's not really the case, nor is it necessary.
Oh, I agree. Man, she dropped the mic right there. I tell you what. Next question. I'm going to go to page 194 on the bottom, and the question was, what other disadvantages are there in free expression of opinion? And the devil answers over here on page 195, the second paragraph. It says, wise men keep their plans to themselves and refrain from expressing uninvited opinions. This prevents others from appropriating their ideas and making it difficult for others to interfere with their plans, which I think is amazing. Miss Kathleen Williams.
I agree. And I have anybody with a good idea, until they get it off the ground, that keeps it to themselves are successful. Those that go around saying, this is what I'm going to do, has their ideas stolen and developed by somebody else.
That's true. Or they don't get them off the ground. They just keep talking and not doers. I love it. They keep drifting. Mr. Myers, what do you have to say about this?
I definitely have a lot. But what I would say is that, you know, when you first start an idea, it's small, it's fragile. And so if you're out there talking to people that aren't in your same mindset, aren't in your same group, that they can literally steal that away from you, not for themselves necessarily, but because they think that it's not for you. And we all, as individuals, have a purpose in life, and it's not going to be everybody else's.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Mr. Mills, I can't wait to hear what your answer is going to be.
Well, don't wait no longer. So here we are with this. I guess I look at this. There are some things you need to speak out into the universe so that you can create movement, and also plant your flag and say, I am going here, you know. Now, maybe you don't need to know all of the plans along with it. Some things that need to be kept silent along with it. So I understand that portion of it, of themselves and refraining from expressing uninvited opinions. But at the same time, make a statement, you know?
Yeah, make a statement. Very good. Ms. Rutherford.
The power of declaration or decreeing what you want in your purpose is really important. But as Harrison said, I mean, one of my reasons why for doing my business is I want to be able to provide afterlife for survivors of sex trafficking of varying ages. Now, did I say the comprehensive program? Nope. You understand? Do I really care what your opinion is on? No, not really. But I get the point because so many of us are so easily swayed by what other people think. But it's not their dream. It's not their purpose. It's not their definiteness of being in purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great answer. If someone have just turn your phone off if somebody's vibrating over there, okay, please. Also, kind of tying in with the same thing is the devil was asked a question. The answer was, about the disadvantages that have habits. And he says there on page 195, the answer, the person who insists on telling or talking seldom has an opportunity to learn by listening to others. And that's where that thing comes in. God said you have 2 ears to listen twice as much as you talk. And some people just on and on. You can't learn while you're talking and blabbing. Right, Miss Williams? I see you going like that. Go ahead, Miss Williams.
You can't learn anything if you're just, and the thing is, unless you're listening, you don't hear what that person's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're too many times people say they're listening, but they're hearing, which is hearing and listening are not the same thing.
Mm.
And if you're hearing in your mind, you're already figuring out what you're going to say next. If you're listening, you're thinking about what they said and ready to ask a question for clarification if you need to.
Great. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Mr. Myers.
Well, like Mr. Thomas said, we were created with 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's for sure. And without taking the time to listen, we can never learn. We can never advance. Plus, I think it's a sign of integrity and respect. When you take more time listening, you can understand and communicate better with the person that you're involved with, that you're reacting with. And that is really the key to any kind of growth in anything, is that connection.
Yeah, that's so important. So important. Says, Mr. Harrison Mills, what is your opinion?
So, I'm going to go along with also what you're saying, but I'm going to go take that a little further. As we're talking about on 195 at the very bottom, no single quality adds more to one's personality than the ability to speak with emotional feeling, force, and conviction, but the speaker must not impose his speech upon others without being invited to do so. Meaning this, I believe, we have some eloquent speakers that we listen to all the time, but sometimes that one person, it's not the time. You might have something great to say to make this life, but this might be your time to actually listen. So it's not just for those that are taking in, but it's also for that one that does know when is the right time to actually speak.
Very good. Very good. Very good. That's so important. Very, very important. Because sometimes, when you get around successful people, my mentors always said, be quiet and listen. You can't learn by when you're talking. And then when you get around successful, if you keep talking, you're showing your ignorance, because you should be listening because they know more than you do. Anyway, Miss Rutherford, please.
Mr. Thomas, I was raised in a barbershop, in a 6-chaired barbershop. And if you know barbershops, they normally have about 6 more people who are regulars. And as a kid, I had to shut up and listen. I'm so serious, but it taught me valuable lessons. It taught me how to interact with men and not feel intimidated. And oftentimes, I gravitate towards them because I believe of that time period, But as well, in business and in life, many of the people we come across don't feel like anybody listens to what they're thinking about and what they really want out of life.
That's so true. That's why I think certain channels on the internet now, people just whatever they want, it's just, and they don't say nothing in pictures or anyway. That's something for another day. Well, let's go move on to chapter number 11, everybody. So we're going to chapter number 11, learning from adversities. Chapter 11. Remember tonight we're going through chapter 10, self-discipline. Chapter 11, learning from adversities. And we're going to go to page 202 for you folks out there around the world with your books out that is joining us. Some of you got on here, want to know where we're at. That's where we're at. And we're going to get on here and go to page 202. Before I do that, I'd like to thank Miss Maria Estrada for jumping in and becoming a member on the Platinum Club on our private channel. Thank you so much, Miss Maria Estrada. Thank you, dear, for joining the Platinum level. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And guys, if you're not joined the Platinum level, please go and join our private channel and join at the Platinum level. There's the goal. Thank you so much, Maria Estrada. All right, we're going to go to page 202. The question at the top of the page, it says, if failing ever a benefit to man? I'll read it again. Is failure ever a benefit to man? And the devil answered, indeed, yes. Learning from adversity is the third of the 7 principles. But few people know that every adversity brings with it a seed of equivalent advantage. Still, few people know the difference between temporary defeat and failure. Wow. Miss Kathleen Williams.
So true. And the thing is there's generations out there that have been trained that failure is not a temporary defeat. Failure is failure. And if you don't do what meet the standard that everybody thinks you need to meet at, you're a failure. And people get labeled as failures when in reality, they may be learning from whatever they have, the adversity has been, and growing along the way.
Mm-hmm.
They never get recognized to that effect.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Mr. Wow, that was really good. Mr. Myers?
Well, I really take this a little bit differently because I think really there's two things in here. There's failure, which I think is absolute. That's when you've given up, you've left. And then temporary defeat or even a failure as you're moving forward is really a learning experience. It's a chance to reflect on what's going on, to tweak what you're doing and get you back into where you need to go. So failure is absolute, and that never works. It never works. You can have failure in a lot of different things and still have success in others. But when you stop trying to overcome those roadblocks, those temporary defeats, is when you become failure, when you have failure.
Wow, that's a very good point. You guys all got some great comments tonight of reading this, and I'm so glad everybody dived into this real deep and got into the meat and potatoes for them. And folks out there listening, I hope you guys can dive in and get some good stuff out of this too, just by the book review and by getting the book. Mr. Mills, what would you say, sir?
It's such a healthy conversation with it. By the way, we passed up a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to save that for next week. Shameless plug for the summary. Okay.
All
but
right.
With this, still fewer people know the difference between temporary defeat and failure. That is just wow. And so our person behind the curtain says they think failure is final. You think that it's final. And so, and we're also taught that when you do fail, throw in the towel. That's basically how they treat in education. You get all these different marks and points and this, that, and everything. And once you do, it shows that you're incompetent or this. You never know how this person learns. So it is definitely just to know that you can fail many times, and succeed.
Lord knows I failed so many times and got up, dust myself off, and kept going.
Yep.
I mean, we all have. That's how you learn, folks. Failure is not final. I love it. Miss Rutherford. Wow. Woohoo!
I look at the example of Colonel Sanders and Abraham Lincoln. Now, Colonel Sanders was about my age when he took his wife on the road with a chicken recipe.
Yes.
And where he got the recipe from, but he had a chicken recipe, and over 1,000 people told him no. Abraham Lincoln ran 10 times before he got elected to anything. So oftentimes when we allow a temporary setback, as Mr. Myers says, create the failure attitude in our mind to drift off, we're often about 3 feet away from success, but we tucked our tails in and we went back home.
Wow, it's so true. There's a book called 3 Feet from Gold, and that's at 3 feet. We just stopped short of our blessing. I love it. God, thank you. I'm going to stay on page 202, and the second question on 202, Napoleon asks the devil, but I understand you say that failure is one of your greatest allies. Now, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this. Listen to this. This is what he says. I take them over after they quit trying. Let me say it again. I take them over after they quit trying. If they knew the difference between temporary defeat and failure, they would not quit when they meet with opposite from life. If they knew that every form of defeat and all failure bring with it a seed of unborn opportunity, they would keep on fighting and win and win. Success usually is but one short step beyond the point where one quit fighting. We just said that. Wow. Miss Kathleen Williams.
3 feet from gold.
3 feet from gold.
I have seen people get right to the line and give up. We wouldn't have things that Edison has given us. We wouldn't have the vehicles we get around in today if Ford and Edison had given up.
That's so true. Mr. Bob Myers.
Well, I'm gonna give you a personal story. So back in the great downturn in 2007 and 9, I really felt the devil had control over me. I lost two properties to foreclosure, had another one back then. I was lucky to make $6 an hour. I compensated that by working 100 hours a week plus, but I might have failed in some things in there because I chose to at the end, but it didn't change my life to a failure. It changed my life to something that I could now see what roadblocks were. And I think it was truly became a blessing in my life because now I know what it takes to get around those things. And I have 10x my life since then. So,
Wow. I'm going to throw this in here also, Mr. Mills, before you talk, and Miss Rutherford. And he also says, I hate to tell you this, but failure often serve as a blessing in disguise because it breaks up the gap of hypnotic rhythm and it frees the mind for a fresh start.
Love it. And the funny thing is, I was going to read that right before you say that, but let me just say this.
I read your mind, sir. I'm on that level.
You see me? You see me. So this is the only thing it says to me is this. It's good to fail. Go ahead and go fail. Go get out there and go fail. It's okay. The fear is there. Go overcome the fear so that you can get what? A fresh start with it. And here's the funny thing is once you do fail, and once you do succeed, once you get success, you forget about those failures because you succeeded. You forget about how all those things are happening other than teaching someone else this is what not to do.
Yeah. And we just put the 3 feet of gold in the chat for a minute ago. Matter of fact, I was just talking to a friend of mine this morning who's down in Mexico. And I said, look, I told him today, I said, go ahead and fail. You're young. You're only 36. Fail while you're young. You got no kids. You have no wife, nothing. Fail young. And that way you can regain quicker and go back at it again. I was telling him that this morning. So amazing. Miss Rutherford, let's go.
When I think about failure too, I think about riding a bike. That's not a training wheel situation because you're subject to fall over. I mean, do you just lay there with the bike or do you get up and keep going? But now we've got a society where we reward people just for showing up.
well, so true.
I mean, come on now. So resilience is what develops, and perseverance and determination and all of that. Now you might have to tweak or listen to somebody else like yourself, Mr. Thomas, or any mentor that's worth their salt. But come on now, let's win.
There you go. Thank you, dear. On page 203, he talks a little bit about failure. I'm going to read on the answer on the bottom of the page of 203, the answer. Failure is a man-made circumstances that is never real until it has been accepted by man as permanent. Man, so many take it as permanent. Miss Kathleen Williams.
Yeah. And those that don't, it's like, how many shots did Kobe Bryant miss? When he was given the ball to clinch a playoff. I mean, it's like some of the football players, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but some of the greatest kickers, how many times did they miss in a clutch situation?
Yeah, good point. And it also says failure is a state of mind. Bob Myers.
And it's like, okay, push on ahead.
Yeah, keep moving.
Well, I think that that's an amazing statement, actually, because what it really does is it says that we ultimately have control over everything in our lives. Even back in 2007, I had control over that situation. No matter how overwhelming it was, I could have and did get out of it in certain ways. But through that control over our own life, it knows that we really truly can control our destiny, and that no one, even the devil, cannot control that if we don't allow him to.
That's right. And that takes a strong mind and stay consistent. Love it. Yes, sir. Mr. Harrison Mills.
Hey, this is coming from a person that kind of told me this, that I'm a failure. That you're going to wear that on me. How dare you come to me and tell me that I'm a failure, or I can't. Let me put that in a different way. That you can't do that. Those different things of saying I can't, and all it did is just push me further. But there are some people that wear that. Now, just think about telling a young kid that you will fail at this. You won't succeed at those things. You never know what they were put on this planet for, which makes them want to go even further. But this is my way of saying that failure is not a person, it is a thing. It is man-made. Something man-made.
Right out of the pit of you know where. There you go, sir. Thank you for that. I love that. And how dare you put a label on me? One of my mentors, Peter J. Daniels, one of my mentors in Australia, his school teacher called Mrs. Phillips, talking about he will never amount to nothing. He was a failure. And he wrote a book about her. And he wrote a book called Mrs. Phillips, You Were Wrong. He talks about he used to fight on the street corners in Australia, and now he owns them. So people, we label kids and people, don't do that, people. And that's what the devil does. That's another trick that he used to hold you down. Miss Rutherford.
A lot of people talk about what they used to be instead of what they're going to be. And so you're right about that. Every last one of you, we've had control to a great degree over everything that we've experienced in life. Unless somebody had a gun drawn on us, those choices that we made to stay in situations are why we have what we have or not. And so you're right. Defeat, failure, it's all to refine us, I believe. I believe just like Joseph. Joseph was in prison, not once, but twice, and he ended up ruling nations. So it's all about perspective.
Very good. Very good. Perspective. Let's go to page 205. When he asked the devil something about does failure play and help individuals with the hypnotic rhythm, and how can they break it? And the devil says this on page 205. I go to where it says, it gives an individual an opportunity to test themselves, whereby he may learn how much willpower he possesses. Failure also forces people to learn many truths they would never discover without it. Failure often leads an individual to understand of the power of self-discipline, without which no one could turn back after having once been the victim of the hypnotic rhythm. Wow. Once you understand it, you can't go back. I love it. Miss Kathleen Williams.
You can't go back. And it goes on to say, study of outstanding successful people in their calling, they develop profitability.
Mm-hmm.
They succeed. And the ratio of their experience is in direct proportion to the size of the failure. As we've all said, failure is not a negative or a positive. It's used in a negative sense frequently.
Yeah, to keep us in bondage. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Myers. Wow. Thank you.
Well, I think definitely I've experienced it. Failure can actually be an opportunity to self-reflect. It can let you see where the holes are at, maybe where some things that you need to change, whether it's in your integrity or your method or your inconsistency or in the way you communicate. And through that, it gives us the opportunity to grow. And without that, if we were always successful, if everything always went our way, we would go nowhere. We would never evolve into the purpose and the person that we were meant to be.
Wow. Good answer, Mr. Mills.
Beautiful person you're supposed to be. That one part, test himself. It gives the individual an opportunity to test himself. And so, speaking about infinite intelligence, it actually gives us this test on just giving a tenth of who you are, of your wealth, of your person, your personality, giving it to the community. And right after that, he says, prove me and see. Here's the challenge. And watch what it does. Just by you challenging me, how many doors will open up for you where I will fill your barns with so much plentiful abundance. Comes after that. Just from being tested, abundance comes just by giving. So it just makes me wonder this: what other things I need to test myself with? What other things do I need to give of self to go fail a little bit, just so that I could be actually blessing someone else's life?
Yeah, that's a good answer. You know, part of winning is losing. You know, failure is part of success. When I do certain transaction, if the average person think they can win 100%, that's not even realistic. If I win 80% or 90% of what I do and lose out on 10%, I'm still ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. But the average person wants to win 100% of the time. That is being very unrealistic. If I win 80 to 90%, I'm great. If I lose 10 or 20, I'm okay. That's part of the game. It's part of life. Ms. Rutherford, what you got to say? I'm sorry.
That's okay, because this whole dialogue is so very well inspired. Listen, if you've never seen a valley, you have no reason to appreciate it when you hit a mountaintop.
Mm.
You know, you stay down in the valley where the green grass grows, or stretch yourself a little bit and then stretch yourself again, because you don't like falling off the cliff, so that you can get to the higher level in life. So many of us allow where we are to stay where we are. And that's on you. It's totally your choice, but don't get mad when I decide to get up and move.
I love it. Woo, go. I like that. Woo, let's go to page 207. Man, that was good. Here's something he talked about successful people on page 207. He says, men who succeed in business, this is the devil talking, do so entirely because of the way they relate themselves to their associates and to others outside of the business. Mm-hmm. Professional men / women who succeed do so largely because of the manner in which they relate themselves to their clients. Wow. Ms. Williams.
Yeah. Yes, that's very true. Successful people hang out with other successful people. The eagles only fly with eagles. They don't stroll around on the ground with chickens. I'm sorry, it's the truth. And success breeds success. And if you want to succeed, going back to something that was said earlier, is that you have to listen to successful people if you want what they have.
Exactly. That's so good. Successful eagles hang out with eagles. They don't hang out with chickens or buzzards. I love it. Mr. Myers.
Well, I'll take something right out of the Bible, which is men sharpen men, which would really be humans sharpen humans, because it really isn't men or women. And so with that, we get an opportunity to build something. Business, relationships, everything's about communication. And there's something about successful people. They have an inner peace, an inner aura, an inner strength that they don't even really have to say. You can feel it through their emotion. And that's what really happens.
That's a good point. That's so true, sir. Mr. Mills?
Man, there's so much I could say, but I'm gonna just go with this. We just got to talking about food, emotion of sex, and of organizing. This being disorganized with that, and just thinking about relational, those people that you deal with on a certain basis. So the further you go in certain communities, you see KFC, Taco Bell on this side of the community, but you go to the other side, you see farmers markets. You see a different. You don't see many liquor stores going around the place, or indulging in those certain things. Things start to change because of how that. And I will say some of that is directed. That's a different conversation later. But here's the one thing I love about this. Just going also with that good word. Keep company with wise men, and you will increase their number. Mm-hmm. Keep company with wise men, and you will increase their number.
I think that's what scripture I went over today. That's right. You got to be around wisdom and with understanding. Love it. Miss Rutherford. Woo! Well, this
You
is a rich
know,
conversation tonight.
this is, as my mother used to say, this whole conversation is juicy. Now, I have a sister friend, and when I first met her, she was a consultant and she was making $165 an hour. And I said, "Well, you're not a lawyer?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, can you teach me to do what you're doing?" See, I could have taken the route of reality television and talked off camera about her and the fact that she was doing all of this and all of that. Or I could choose to put myself in the position to do just as well or better. And so we have that opportunity to do that. And we have that opportunity about who we associate ourselves with. You're not going to be in that position talking to the drunk down at the corner in the neighborhood where Harrison lived. But no, see,
Deep. That was
If you
deep.
see in his backyard, you can tell he's not in that neighborhood. He's in
I
a great
love
neighborhood.
yes, I have.
All right, good answer. Let's go to page 112. Let's go to page 209. That was a good one. Page 209. And I want you guys to listen to this in the middle of the page. And the devil is answering. No one can change the law of hypnotic rhythm any more than one can change the law of gravity. But, I'll say it again, but everyone can change himself or herself. And he goes on to say, have you ever tried to change someone else and only been frustrated when you realize you are not in control and therefore not succeeding? Miss Kathleen Williams.
As I read this, I thought back about some of the people I've worked around that I have tried to change. See, people I have lived with that I have tried to change. And all I got was frustration out of it. And when I came to the reality that I can't change them, only they can change them, and that I only have control of myself and not them, my life improved 300% because I wasn't trying to fix anybody anymore.
Yeah. Wow. There you go. Mr. Myers, all you can do is change yourself.
Well, and I definitely agree with that. I mean, any change has to start with yourself, but I also believe that we have an opportunity to connect with people on a different level, that we can open their mind by finding out where they're at, the struggles, the tribulations, the trials that they're having. And through that, we can actually find a way to give them some things that would actually help them open their mind and see it from a different perspective, a different way. And that's really truly where communication comes from, is right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That's so true. Mr. Mills?
Look, talk about failure. Changing someone, trying to change someone. Oh my goodness. I've come down that road several times personally. And I've learned after the 16th, maybe umpteenth time, but I have faith in people is where that comes from, but then here's the same thing is it probably wasn't them. As you would say, you pointed someone, but you got how many fingers facing you?
Yep.
4 facing right back at you. It was me. So I'm coming for you. And honestly, it's probably, I just need to say deuces, just throw up the deuces and say, go, just part ways. But other times it's like, you're just not ready.
Yeah.
You're not ready. I'm not ready. Deuces.
Deuces. All right. Deuces. Miss Rutherford.
I started thinking about a woman that all of us know. Her name is Debbie Davis. And by her own self-admission, she had failed at every business she'd ever put her hands on. And yet she had the gumption to put together these 4 guys. And with the idea, because she didn't really talk to them about it. I'm going back through this book. She didn't really talk to them that much about it. But guess what? They came together. And
Okay.
because they came together, we came together. So this book is a powerful, powerful situation for then, 70 years ago, and today.
Very good point. God bless you on that. I'm going to go to top of page 213. Napoleon is asking the devil the question, what then is an improper relationship? And the devil answered, any relationship between people which damage anyone or bring any form of misery or unhappiness to any of the individuals. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Kathleen Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there are improper relationships that damage people, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, whatever kind of damage it does, or whether it's just damaging a reputation by what you say about that person to other people, or what you may not say as much. Damaging people is not okay either.
Yeah, not okay. That's true. Mr. Myers?
Well, I take this section as really, to me, is it has to be a win-win for everyone involved. Sometimes that's hard to get to, but you never want to make anybody lose through what you tell them, the way you treat them, the way you react to them. I think it really comes down to not only humbling yourself, but trying to understand the position of where someone's at that you're talking to, or whatever interaction you're having.
Okay. Mr. Myers? Thank you. Mr. Mills?
This is a deep conversation for me because it has me thinking of a physical abuse. I'm going to just say it: physical abuse with rather sexually or battered women, and what that does to people, and it puts you in a place of where you're going to go, either fear, or you're going to go with a challenge with it. It could build a callus, or it could build a shield of protection. What it might be. But sometimes you start to drift in thinking, once again, you put a tag on yourself and saying, "This is who I am," and until you see someone else that comes to you that is healthy and helps build you up.
I like that. Start to drift. I like that. Thank you. Miss Rutherford?
Having survived emotional and physical abuse, both as a child and as an adult, I can really appreciate the choice of knowing that it's an improper relationship, and it could be emotional. I used to get an attitude if somebody text me in capital letters because I felt like you were screaming at me, and I don't deserve that kind of treatment. So it's about breaking a pattern, because people are sometimes redundant about selection of the same type of person. They might look different, but they bring about the same characteristics because that person has not done their proper shadow work to grow into that next level of existence.
Wow. That was a lot. Thank you, dear, for sharing that. On page 214, the last question at the bottom of the page, he talks about failure always is a blessing when it's forced one to acquire knowledge and build habits to lead to achievement of one major purpose in life. Is that correct? And the devil answered yes. And also it goes down a little bit further. It says, when a man can no longer use his hands or woman or feet, usually begins to use their brain and puts himself in a way of discovering the power of his or her own mind. Wow.
So true. I have seen paras and quads who, once they become a para and quad, somehow something down deep in them came alive. And when it did, the mind that they developed and the businesses they developed as a result of that was astronomical. And they continued to build and be an inspiration for even those who were not quads or paras and had full body functions.
Wow. And coming from a nurse of many years, I take that as a wow, because you see it firsthand. You're there dealing with it on a firsthand basis. So thank you for sharing that, because the mind is amazing once these other things are taken out. Mr. Bob Myers.
Yeah, I definitely think that failure actually, if you don't take it as a absolute, it's like pulling back the curtain, and it opens up to all the inner possibilities and things that maybe you never even considered. Things in your life, emotions, it opens up that thought process and that communication that can really bring about long lasting change, not only in your purpose, but in your legacy and your life and the way you affect people around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Good answer. Mr. Harrison Mills?
Hmm. Hey, I'll just say this: you can learn from anyone.
Yeah.
You can learn from anyone. I say this. I used to work. You did human resource for a auto mechanic, automotive repair. So a bunch of mechanics. That's all they did is work with hands, feet. I mean, look. I mean, just greasy, dirty, every bit. And the funny thing is, they thought that's all they had to aspire to was that. But then you hear them speak, and I'm like, as far as service goes, they spoke so well. And I was just like, do you hear yourself? Like, you don't think the little things, the person, how you connect with people, you don't, I was like, I need that. And sometimes you're too book smart. I need to, and so I took a moment. This is when I put on my listening ears and I just learned from them. I said, I'm just going to watch you. I know you don't think you're worth much or anything. I probably can't do an oil change, but I can definitely take that conversation. I need those words in my mouth. So it's just a great thing just for me to see.
Great. That's powerful. Miss Rutherford.
Very seldom do people inculcate into people their worth. We look at other people that we idolize as celebrities, athletes, stars, whatever. But they all go to the bathroom and wipe from front to back too. And they got the same toe tag for those celebrities that they do for common people when they expire. And so adversity, failure, all of these things help, I think, to refine us into the best person that we can be. So we can learn this lesson here on earth.
Wow. Man. Okay. Okay. I'm going to page 215. Question on 215. It says, what benefit may be derived from the loss of material things, money, for example? And the devil answered, the loss of material things may teach many needed lessons, none greater, however, than the truth that man has control over nothing and has no subtraction to the permanent use of anything except his own power and thought. Wow. He has no assurance but the permanent use of anything except his own power and thoughts. What do you think about that, Miss Williams?
All I have to do is hear the news reports of what goes on with the hurricanes, the weathers, the tornadoes, the fires, and the total destruction of all those physical things that we have. And the only thing that people many times have left is their physical body and their brain. And those that succeed and rebuild and succeed, especially business owners, have the brain power to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, keep developing, keep building. I love it. Mr. Myers.
Well, that's an absolute truth, because the only thing we really have power over is ourselves, what we do. And through that, we have ultimate power then. If you concentrate on that inner power of yourself, your superhero, that is where you will really gain everything. We can overcome anything outside of us as long as we can overcome ourselves.
Overcome ourselves. There you go. Mr. Mills.
The power of thought, just being a thinker with itself. I think it's somewhere else in this book, either before or after, saying how some people speak before they think. Non-drifters. Being a drifter is actually thinking before you move, before you act on there. So it's just so much you can, I guess I look at it this way, that, there's so much that I can plan about. I can rearrange, but act, yes, act, but also just the power of thought and what it can do for you. Even when you do fail, you get a chance to think about it again.
There you go. Think about it. That's right. Rethink it. Miss Rutherford.
I've had the opportunity of walking away from households full of furniture with clothes on my back, and somehow I never became naked. So what I'm saying to you is, that's what tricked up Lot's wife. She was so messed up with what she was leaving that she couldn't have the faith to move forward. And so, like I said, I've always managed to have shoes. Matter of fact, I have too many possessional shoes and clothes. Be hard for me to get a good man because he ain't got nowhere to put his clothes.
We'll keep this. It's a family channel. Okay. I love the answer. On page 215, question that Napoleon asked the devil. I wonder if this is not the greatest benefit available through adversity. And the devil answered, no, the greatest potential benefits of any circumstances, which causes one to make a fresh start, there you go, is that it provides an opportunity to break the grip of hypnotic rhythm and set up a new set of thought habits. New habits often offer the only way out for people who fail. Wow. Miss Williams.
To escape from negative to positive operations of the law of hypnotic rhythm because of adversity forces them to change their habits. And when you get into an adverse situation, many times it's negative, and unless you find the positivity in it, you're only going to be negative the rest of your life.
Good point. Very good point. The rest of your life. Mr. Myers.
Well, adversity really gives us a chance to change our thought habits, our direction. It opens us back up to reevaluate everything we're doing. And so through that, it's just like every morning we wake up, it's a new day. I know every day I wake up in the morning, I feel exhilarated. I'm ready to start out again. And the night before, I thought about all the things that maybe I could have done differently. So it gives us a chance to refresh our life. And we could do that every day.
Every day. That's so true, sir. Very good point. Mr. Mills, every
Beautiful. So another part attached to that is on 2013, where the answer at the bottom says, adversity relieves people of vanity and egotism. With it, I could not say that any better of what that whole thing, giving you a clean slate. It's almost taking someone through the fire. Have you ever did the glass blowing? Anyone ever done that? And you go in there and it takes whatever things and it purifies, it refines the glass. And that same thing happens to us as we go through adversity. It starts to purify us. It gives you a fresh take. It refines you, builds some different calluses so that you can move forward with strength.
Ooh.
Wow, thank you. Wow. Miss Rutherford. Follow that one.
I got excited, and then I started thinking about your friend, Mr. Sheckman, who was talking about the silver and the gold. And in the refinement, when you find a piece of nugget, it doesn't look that great. It's the same thing with a diamond. It has to go under pressure. And so without us going through adversity and refinement, we will never reach the potential of where we're supposed to be. And oftentimes, when you call yourself a boy wonder or a girl wonder, you wonder why they don't stick around very long.
Good point. Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a few more to go through here as we go into chapter 12, environment, money, harmony, and caution. Okay. I'm going to go to page 121 for the folks around the world following with us. On page 121, the question is, when is it important that one select one's closest associates with great care? And the devil answers, one intimate associate should be chosen with such care as one chooses the food in which he feeds his body, with the objects objects always of association with people whose dominant through are positive, friendly, and harmonious. What do you think about that, Ms. Williams?
Walk into a room where there's always this and you'll be walking out of the room feeling the same way. Walk in a room where people are positive and upbeat, and you'll walk out of the room feeling positive and upbeat. And who are you associating with? The negative people or the positive people? If you associate with the negative people, scarcity is your mindset. If you associate with positive people, abundancy is always your mindset.
Wow, that's so true. I ditto that, Mr. Myers.
Well, I think without a doubt, we're always a product of our environment. We get a chance to choose that environment. And that can be anything through relationships, through our business partners, through the books we read. And so those all influence our mind. And without those positive influences, it can get off track quick. So it's important to always immerse yourself in the things and in with the people, the things, the books that actually help grow you to the direction that you're headed.
That's a really good one. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mills.
This is one I just kind of soaked in. This is definitely one I need to sit and listen. But that last part, harmonious, that is definitely a key word I will start putting into my vocabulary. We just don't harmonize together. And I'm okay with that. And there's something that we don't, maybe at another point we probably will, but at this present time, we don't. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but the thing is letting me know that you don't need to connect with everyone. Everyone's not meant for you. And even if you decide you want, you have a caring hand, and I want, there's something I feel like I need to help you with. But do I do myself some kind of, scarcity part? Is there something I should be actually pausing for a second to say, hey, just wait 1 minute. Something says, don't touch that. Don't touch it.
Boy, this stuff tonight is good. Y'all stirring this pot up real good. And the brew in this gumbo was really delicious. Mrs. Rutherford.
Okay, I'm going to throw the pepper in there because, see, when it says intimate associates, that's not always the person that you're engaging in copulational sex with. It's the people that you surround yourself to hear the utterances of your heart, see? And the choosing of those people is very important. Now, we'll go up to the store and get food by a label that says organic, and we'll pay more for it and think that we really got a bargain. It's the same thing in the valley and the garden of life. You see somebody, they got a nice car, they live in a nice neighborhood, and they wearing everybody's names on their body, but they have no soul. So choose wisely who you associate with. Choose wisely because it's the downfall of many.
I'm letting that sink in. That was his, boy, I tell you, that was the sauce on the steak right there. I almost lost my mind on that one. That was deep. Miss Ursula Allen is commenting in the comments deep. Yes. Man, I tell you what. On page, the next question right under that, it says, which class of associates has the greatest influence upon one? The answer to the devil say, one partners in marriage and in the home, and one associate in his occupation or her occupation. After that comes close friends and acquaintance, casual acquaintance and strangers, but have little influence on one. Wow, we just kind of talked about that a little bit. Miss Kathleen.
It's very true. The first relationships are those in the marriage and those in your home. Those that are very close to you, they can be positive or negative. And as a result, it takes that positivity or negativity even into your occupation. Are the people you work with positive or negative? And can you influence a positivity to someone that you're around?
Wow. Okay. Mr. Myers?
Well, definitely the people that we're around the most are going to have the most influence on us. That's why it's so important that we pick people and we associate with people that have the knowledge, the skill, the clarity, the commitment to do what they're doing to get us, to help us get in the same place, to get us going where we want to go. And the people that could even have our same last name that aren't heading in the direction that we are, doesn't mean we can't love them, but we need to put enough time in between us. We can't spend a lot of time with them.
Yes, yeah. So true, sir. Mr. Mills?
Keep this as simple as I can. So I wish I knew the name in San Francisco, the street in San Francisco, but out here, some things are communities. You know not to go to this community, or not to go to this community. With San Francisco, it's the street. Okay. You can walk down the street. On one side of the street, it is a beautiful community. Great. But you look across the street and it is saying, everything says, do not cross that street. Your life is in danger. Molly, your life is in danger. Do not cross that street. And so it just has me just thinking of that same thing. Who would you like to associate? Because there's some people are saying, I actually belong on that side of the street versus on this side. They're very much enticed to that, or harmonize with some of those different things with it. So just even a street, I'm saying even the one step, not really a drive down, but just even the one step, who's in around in your circle that shouldn't be there?
Wow. Miss Rutherford.
You guys have said such positive and true things, but it's true. Your home, they made a movie called Sleeping with the Enemy, and sometimes that's exactly what you come across, and that's why this book was so very helpful in my practical life. And so I'm telling you, your choices are important. And sometimes we do things from a point of loneliness instead of being a non-drifter and taking into consideration, as Catherine said before, the characteristics. If you choose somebody based on their derriere and they can't cook, don't complain about it later.
All right. For the sake of time, we're going to make this our last one on page 225. The 10 most common motives, those who which inspired most of the one thought actions, are these: the desires for sex expression and love, the desire for physical food, the desire for spiritual, mental, and physical self-expression, the desire for perpetual of life after death, the desire of power over others, the desire for material wealth, the desires for knowledge, the desires for intimate with others, the desires to excel others, the 7 basic fears. What do you guys have to say about that, Miss Kathleen Williams? It's going to be our last one for the night, by the way.
One of the things I found interesting is he has said throughout the whole time that the desire for sexual expression and love is one of the strongest desires there are. And then it comes in with the next one he hits up is food, which he says has the desire for food or the abuse of food, what it does to our bodies. And it moves down from those and the spiritual and mental things, it moves down to the physical materialistic items. And yeah, those are the desires that I have seen in many people's actions.
Yeah, so true. Mr. Myers?
Well, I've decided I'm going to upstage the devil, because I'm going to add one in there. And that really is the desire to serve. And I think a lot of these things, like perpetuation after life, power over others, material wealth, knowledge, excel over others, that really happens through the service of others. That's where we really create that massive movement, that chance to be not only help your family and your neighborhood, but to change the world. It's like when they went around 20 years ago about paying forward, and the person in the drive-thru would pay for the person behind them. That created a movement that went around the world. And we all have an opportunity to do that through the desire to serve.
Wow, so true. I like how you add that in. Great, sir. Mr. Mills.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Bob
was.
Myers, for that. I'm just going to stick with the top one, and that is the desire of sex, expression, and love, which we kind of talked about that. So now we're going to decide where this is a principle for actually motive with this, the master and controlling with it. I just remember this, my mother telling me this before I even started. I didn't even know where it came from as a kid. You're preteen, you're not thinking much about, love and all those things. But she just told me this: you watch and you give your heart to. You watch, you give your heart to, because you just never were. Is it going to lead you down to a place of destruction, or will it lead you to a place of gratitude, of giving, or of service in that sense of the word? And so it means they're very powerful, because once you give your heart, sometimes you can't take it away. They pretty much have it,
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Be careful who you give your heart to. Wow. Man, you ended the night with a good one. I can't wait to see what Ms. Repper's going to say on this one. I think your phone is muted, dear.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate you. To piggyback on what Harrison said, soul ties, that transmutable situation, you don't know who you're copulating with. And it can be to your benefit and it can be to your detriment. And so, and it can literally cost you your life. So it's very, very, very important. But nowadays there's this terminology called mukbang, and it's like food porn. You sit there and just gouge yourself with food in the
Wow.
midst of a hungry world. So you have to choose your friends and your environment very carefully.
It's so true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us tonight. We went through chapter 10, 11, and 12 in Outwitting the Devil. If you have not got the book, get the book and go back through it. Next week, we're going to go through the summary. And right now, I want to thank all of you guys out there watching around the world. If you have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Number 2, put a thumbs up so you enjoyed tonight. I hope you guys all did and got something out of it. And also, if nothing else, please leave a comment, because we love to go through the comments. A lot of you left comments, as I can see there. But if you haven't left a comment, leave a comment. And also share this with several people. And we would like to thank you tonight for joining us in our book club, All Things Business Book Review with the Outwitting the Devil. Chapter 10, Self-Discipline. Chapter 11, Learning from Adversities. And Chapter 12 about Environment, Time, and Harmony, and Caution. And we'll be back next Monday night, another one with a summary of the whole entire book. And I can't wait to hear what that's going to be like. Come on back and join us. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank Miss Kathleen Williams in Sacramento, California for joining us. Mr. Payon in Japan, thank you for your comments, sir. Bob Myers up in Reno, Nevada, thank you so much. Miss Jackie Black, thank you for your comments. Miss Ursula Allen, thank you. April Hall, thank you for your comments. Jack Black, a lot of you gave comments in there. Miss Rutherford, thank you so much in Cleveland, Ohio. And also Mr. Harrison Mills in Fresno, California. Thank you so much for also commenting tonight. We'll see everybody next week. Take care. God bless. And as always, enjoy the book and join us again. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for the gumbo.
Thank you.